Well, hello, my friends. I'm glad to see you made it. Have you come to join me today as we're cleaning out the house of the living God? Hey, would you like to come and would you like to read a story with me? I got so many books here. Hey, I know. I will tell you a story. How about I just tell you a story? Would you all like to hear a story today? I know. Why don't you all go grab a pillow and a blankie and come on back. And come on back and I'm going to tell you a little story about a man named Jesus. Hi, my friends. I see you got your pillows and your blankets. Let's sit back and right here. And I want to tell you a little story about this man named Jesus. And long time ago, there was this man, and he was named Moses. And says he was the first person to ever see God. And he saw God in a burning bush. This tree, it was on fire. Yet, it didn't burn away. It didn't consume itself. It stayed green. It stayed just like a tree. It didn't turn to ashes or dust. And then that burning bush began to speak a voice. And through that voice, we come to know who God is. When we come to know who God is, then all of a sudden we know what His name is. And His name is Jesus. There was a time, I'm going to teach you a little story today as we make a tassel. God said to the little children of the world, that if you're my children, you will make these little tassels, and I want you to make it. And in the Bible, they're called fingers, like little fingers, and the little fingers of God, right? And that's the thing. All the little children of the world are in the hand of God, and these are His fingers that hold us in that hand. And that's why we make these, not for no other reason than to remind us that we are in God's hand every single day, no matter where we go. And not only that, God made the moon. And the moon shines nice and bright during the nighttime hours to remind us that even when it's so dark, we always have light. And God, as in the burning bush, is light, like fire. Like the sun, like the stars. And that's the thing. All the children of God are little tiny stars. Right? And we're all a part of His family. So if you ever heard of DNA, it's a molecule inside of our body. And in that little molecule is all life. That's where we get our hands and our arms, and our fingers, our hair, and the color of our eyes all come from this thing called DNA. Now, God wanted to speak to a bunch of people that were kind of like cavemans. They were way back 4,000 years ago. And He couldn't explain DNA to them because they were simple people. But today, we are very wise and intelligent. And we know a little more about God than they did back then. But everything they taught us then gave us the knowledge of what we have today. And so this is a reminder. In our blood is life. And where there is blood, there is life. God made both the blood and the spirit. And that's to remind us. That's what we do this for. To remind us that the Spirit is in our blood, in our DNA. This is human race. Doesn't matter if we're black or white, yellow, red, green, blue. We are all one people, the human beings of the being of God. And this to remind us of that. God says in this book called the Book of Numbers, that we should take two blue strings or one blue string, and then we take it in with the white and we make a tassel, right? Or we make these little fingers, and we can hang these little fingers on our clothes or our little thing, and it could lay right there or wherever you want. You hook it to your garment, you know, and it's just to remind you that we are in God's hands. And nothing slips through His fingers, right? So, I'm going to tell you the story about that. One day, a group of people asked Moses. They weren't sure if Moses was talking to God or not. They thought he might have been a liar. So they challenged Moses, and they said, Moses, how do we know you are talking to God? You could be making all this stuff up, and it could be just a lie, fairy tales, not the truth. Right? So Moses went to the Lord, our God, and he asked him, Lord, these people are rebelling against you and against me, your holy servant, whom you have asked to reveal yourself to them, to these rebellious people. The word rebellious means like people who, you know, don't listen to their mom or dad, or get all mad when their teachers ask them to do something. You know, they get all upset. Sometimes they were like bullies. These people were bad people. And it wasn't that they were bad for any other reason than their actions were bad. They were doing bad things. And now they grouped up a whole group of people together so that they were going to beat Moses up. They challenged Moses to like a fight. Moses didn't know what to do. So he called on God. He prayed to God. And God says, Moses, I want you to grab these blue strings, this cord. He called it a cord. And a string. And I want one to be blue and the rest to be white. And he didn't even say white. He just said, you know, I want one of those strings to be blue. Because he wanted to remind us that my children, Moses, are those who hear me, my voice, and they listen to me. They do what I ask them to do. So Moses hold on, guys. Gotta make this while we go. So Moses, after talking to God, God says, take these strings, make this tassel for yourself. Make these fingers for yourself. And this blue strand is the Spirit, right? It's the Spirit. And we are the fingers, these little fingers, right? We got two blue ones, one for Jesus and one for God. Jesus is the flesh and God is the Spirit. Jesus is God's one and only Son. And the Spirit lives inside God's one and only Son. Did you know the Spirit lives in you? Sometimes we call him just a son, but really it's sons and daughters. Did you know you guys are sons and daughters of God? And His Spirit lives in you. That's why we make this. We have these fingers, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fingers, right? 6 fingers. We got 5 fingers. And when we add these two together, we got 8. 8 fingers. 8 fingers means, in the Bible world, deliverance. It means salvation. It means you're in my hand and you're safe. That's what that means. You're in my hand, you're in my spirit is in your body, and you're safe. That's what that means. 5 of these fingers, right? Right? 5 fingers. Jesus one time fed 5,000 people with only 2 loaves of bread and 5 fish. Right? No, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Well, it doesn't really matter. The miracle was he fed 5,000 people with almost nothing. And he says to his disciples, I want you to feed to those disciples the 5 fish, or the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. So here we got the 5 fingers of God and the 2 fish, the 2 spirits. And there's only one God, one spirit. It's the body and the spirit being one. And we're going to feed you the body and the spirit of Jesus. And by taking that in, you become part of the family. Did you know God is the spirit of love? If you love your mom and your dad, it's because that's God living in you. All the music of love music and all the beautiful things of the world are God. Everything that comes from God is love, is gentle, and it is kind. It's never mean. It's never boastful. It's always humble, like a little humble bee. Right? So, God says to Moses, I want you to make this thing. Right? So he begins to make it, and he tells all the people, make one of these for yourself. For God said that we should make these. And we should obey everything God says. So, the same people that were rebelling against Moses, that wanted to beat Moses up, they were going to bully Moses and beat him up. They wanted to hurt him. They didn't want to make these little tassels. They didn't want one. They didn't believe that it was from God. God got very angry because everybody who doesn't believe in God or follow His words, he gets upset with them. And they would not make these tassels. Not only would they wanted to beat up Moses, they would not even obey God. So God said, well, everybody in the town that doesn't make one of these tassels will be destroyed in the morning. The earth is just going to swallow them all up, and they will be eaten away. But everybody who has one of these will be saved. And remember, this is just a story, and He's inside of you, and you are inside of His hands. He says, everybody who are my children, my little babies, are in my hand. And everybody who wants to be there can be there. So they made these things. First thing in the morning came. And everybody in all the tribe, there was many, many people, came together to be a witness, so they could see the fight. There's some people wanted to see Moses be beat up, and other people wanted to protect Moses. There's like a big fight was about to happen. And before the fight happened, before any of the people of God's loving children got hurt, God rushed down and the earth opened up and it swallowed them. every one of them whole, alive. And to this very day, they still scream out every day, help us, help us. And that's what God says. Always listen to me. Never to the men and peoples of this world. Especially those who want to hurt you. Or abuse you. Or call you names. Those are bad people. And you never want to talk to those people. Unless you're going to love them. And that's what God says. Jesus came many years after Moses. He came like 4,000 some years later after Moses. And Jesus said, you know, when God destroyed those people and the earth swallowed them, he felt so bad. He wants you to forgive him for what he did to those people. And if you can forgive what God did to those people, then you can forgive those people for being mean to you. And that's what Jesus asked us. He will come to tell us that he is sorry he hurt those people, and he never wishes that they would have gotten hurt. And he wants you to forgive those people that may try to hurt you. And be gentle, and be kind, and merciful. And you will always be in God's hand. Okay? I'll see you next time. Don't forget your pillow and your blanket. And look, you can have your very own tassel. And one day I'll show you. This is the name of God. It spells Yod. This is the letters. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. That means I am. And that's our God. I am your Father. And you are in my hand. See you next time.